About 8 years ago, I had a conversation that changed my worldview when it came to the issues of energy and energy poverty. My goal today is, my hope, is that I can help you change how you think about these issues as well. 8 years ago, I was in this rural agriculture, there it is. I was in a rural agricultural village in West Bengal, and I met the woman on the left, Rehna Jamadar. My friend Joyashree Roy was translating for us. We visited this village because I was working on my first documentary, Juice, How Electricity Explains the World. Small agricultural village, predominantly Muslim. It had been connected to the Indian grid about 14 years earlier. And Joyashree struck up a conversation with Rehna, and Rehna led us to her home, and we were talking about how this electrification had affected her and her family. And she talked about the fact that she was now able to use electricity in her kitchen and grind spices, and they had a home entertainment system, and they had lights. Now, recall, this is a woman who had lived almost her entire life in the dark. She was 44 years old. She had her first child when she was 16. So we talked a little bit more, and Rehna said, and very proudly so, that one of her daughters was in the university in Kolkata. And we chatted just a bit more, and I said, well, Rehna, if you had had lights in your home, if you had had electricity in your home when you were growing up, would you have gone to the university as well? And she didn't waste not a nanosecond, nodded her head and said, yes, I would have gone. And it took me a while. You know how you go to meet people and it takes you a while to kind of absorb what you've seen, what you've heard? And it was a couple days later I thought about this, and it came to me, darkness kills human potential. Electricity nourishes it. But the problem with this electricity and nourishing humans and human development and human possibility is that all around the world, people live in electricity poverty. Roughly 47% of the world's population lives in locations where per capita electricity consumption is less than 1,200 kilowatt hours per capita per year. That's about the amount of electricity used by a kitchen refrigerator in the United States. So this challenge that we face is enormous. But the opportunity is enormous. But why should we care? Because electricity frees women and girls from the pump, the stove, and the wash tub. Oh, you can clap. I like that. Thank you. Electricity frees women and girls from the pump, the stove, and the wash tub. This woman, my colleague Tyson Culver was shooting, the videographer, shot this woman pumping water from the well to carry back to her home. We don't carry water very often. A liter of water weighs a kilogram. A gallon weighs 8.3 pounds. How many of you, raise your hands, like the idea of carrying water? All of your domestic needs for water? Go ahead, raise your hand. I don't see a single hand going up. Electricity frees women and girls from the pump, the stove, and the wash tub. Let's talk about the wash tub. This is a photograph from the Library of Congress, 1916 in rural Kentucky. I've used this photo many times. I just recently realized those are chairs that they have the wash tubs on. Every minute, every hour, every day that a woman or a girl is washing clothes by hand is a minute, an hour a day that she's not in school, not in the library, not pursuing other opportunities. The late Swedish demographer Hans Rosling said, or estimated there are about 5 billion people walking around in the world today who are wearing clothes that have been washed by hand. That means there are 2.5 billion women and girls doing that washing. 2.5 billion. Okay, so the pump, the stove, and the wash tub, it's the stove that's the killer. The stove is the killer. Not my numbers, the numbers. World Health Organization data, 2.1 billion people today are cooking with traditional biomass, cooking with solid fuels, charcoal, dung, wheat straw, firewood. And what has that caused? A public health crisis that we hear nothing about. Nothing. I'm going to hit you with some more numbers, not a lot more, but consider this number. 3.2 million people die every year from indoor air pollution. That's more than die from AIDS, HIV, cholera, malaria, and tuberculosis combined. This is a scandal, ladies and gentlemen. 3.2 million people are dying every year because of energy poverty. Not my numbers, World Health Organization numbers. More people, or roughly the same number of people, 7 million people die from indoor air pollution every 27 months. That's roughly the number that died from COVID. Now, I was talking to my friend Matt Ridley. He said that number may be high, the deaths from COVID. Whatever the number, it's still a scandal. So why don't we hear about this? Because we are inundated with climatism. We are inundated with climate catastrophism. I won't read this to you. Sierra Club, Friends of the Earth, Natural Resources Defense Council, they are all adamantly anti-hydrocarbons. And why do they have so much influence? Because their budgets are enormous. I travel a lot. I'm incredibly lucky in my career, in my life. I travel a lot. I do a lot of public speaking. People inevitably ask me, what's the motivation? Why are these groups so opposed to hydrocarbons? It's a business. It's a big business. The business of being anti-hydrocarbons, the business of being climate activists. $4.7 billion. And who are these groups funding? They're funding people like these young women who just a few miles from here, 2 years ago, almost a little more than 2 years ago, threw the soup on the Van Gogh painting and superglued themselves to the wall. And look at their faces. I mean, what a kind of a hopeless kind of look, an outraged look. You're 22 and you're this pissed off? Truly? And what do they think the rest of the world, their life holds for them to do this kind of stunt? They're in prison now, by the way. I think, yeah. My vote would be to send them to rural Africa and not to allow them, or rural Asia, rural southern Asia, and allow them to use no hydrocarbons for the next 5 years and then come back and write us a little book report. How'd you like that Just Stop Oil now? But these are their demands. No hydrocarbons. Net zero by 2025. But it's not just the NGOs, it is the World Bank. My friend Todd Moss spotted this and wrote about it, and I followed his lead. This was on Twitter. The World Bank Energy Group is on Twitter bragging about their plans for Guinea-Bissau. How many of you can find Guinea-Bissau on a map? Go ahead, raise your hand. We're in a room of about 3,000 people. I see maybe 6 hands. Good for you. I'm going to show you the map in just a minute. But look at what the World Bank is saying. Guinea-Bissau, we want to reduce our CO2 emissions by 30% by 2030. And by the way, I don't use exclamation points very much, yet huge potential is ahead. The World Bank is cheering CO2 emissions reductions in Guinea-Bissau. And what is Guinea-Bissau? Where is it? It's that little pink dot over there. I didn't know where it was. I had to look it up. And the World Bank itself calls Guinea-Bissau one of the world's poorest and most fragile countries. Per capita GDP less than $1,000. Overall GDP for a country of 2.1 million, about $2.1 billion. This is outrageous, totally outrageous. We're in Britain, I'll call it barking mad. I'll call it loony round the bend. Total bonkers crazy town is what it is. I looked it up. The World Bank has 10,000 employees. Their administrative budget, the administrative budget at the World Bank is $3.5 billion. Did any one of those 10,000 people say, you know, maybe we shouldn't be doing this report as they're flying on jet airplanes? $3.5 billion to cover their salaries, office expense, and I guess a lot of Cheez-Its. I don't know what they eat in the snack room. So what is my prayer today? It is that you will embrace this idea of energy realism and energy humanism. Philippa said yesterday, we at ARC are pro-human. You cannot be pro-human if you're anti-energy. What is my prayer for you? What is my hope for you? Embrace energy humanism. Be proud, be fearless. As Jordan said the other night, have faith, have courage. But do not shy away from these discussions about energy and humanism. We are inundated with climatism. We are inundated with an anti-human theology. that views humans as a problem. But if we're believers and we believe that there is divinity in all of us, we have to believe in more energy for more people so they can fulfill their God-given talents. Be pro-energy, be pro-human, know your math, know your physics, embrace natural gas to nuclear, end to end. And why do I ask that you do that? My wife Lauren shot this photo in Majlispur. These are the daughters of Majlispur. These are the daughters of women like Rehana Jamadar. These young women deserve a bright future, a well-lit future. And they can only have it with more electricity, with more energy, cheap, abundant, reliable energy. Darkness kills human potential. Electricity nourishes it. My prayer for you, be pro-energy, be pro-human, and don't you ever apologize for it. Thank you very kindly. Thank you.